Welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Badass Direct Sales Mastery is a podcast for rock star direct sales moms who are determined to make their business kick ass. Jenny will share her knowledge of effective sales and recruiting techniques, tips to get what you want from your business, and will interview direct sales professionals and leaders from various companies. The interviews will give insight to how these rock stars got to where they are and where they plan to grow in the future. And now, the direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger.
Welcome back to another episode of Badass Direct Sales Mastery. It's me, Jenny Bellinger, your host and your direct sales dom, here to help you whip your business into shape today. And I am really excited to bring to you the guest that I have today. Her name is Susanne Cesana. And let me tell you a little bit about her, because there were some things I didn't know about her until I met her on Zoom. And then we had the most amazing conversation, and I invited her onto the podcast because I knew you guys would want to hear from her. So Susanne promotes a lifestyle of vitality and wellness that brings higher quality and richness to our daily lives and natural solutions for life cares and concerns, such as stress, anxiety, inflammation, inadequate sleep, and poor nutrition. As a California native living a healthy lifestyle seemed both beautiful and normal, and she esteems it highly. When she moved to Connecticut in 1975, where the thinking was generally more traditional, she delighted in getting to enlighten, educate, and share solutions for better physical and mental health. 45 years, 2 children, and 3 grandchildren later, she remains committed to living a long, healthy life, so much so that she advocates a keto primal lifestyle. And in fact, she's also an active Achilles athlete. Ooh, I don't know what that is. I can't wait to hear about that. And in 2018, she launched her own health coaching business, which includes the use of doTERRA therapeutic grade essential oils and food-based nutrition. She has keenly observed people through the years, and it is poignantly evident to her that lifestyle is such a powerful influence on how we as humans show up for ourselves, for our families, and others, and in our work. So welcome to the show, Susanne.
Oh, thank you so much, Jenny. It's awesome to be here with you. And thank you so much for inviting me to participate in your wonderful podcast.
Oh, I am so excited to have you because as we were talking a few months ago, we were having a great conversation, and it wasn't till I think near the end of the conversation when I realized that you have a visual impairment, which I love that you do not include any of that in your bio because it doesn't define you, but it certainly is a part of who you are, correct?
Very much, very much. And yes, my vision loss started when I was 11 years old, and it was gradual. And I just fiercely defied anyone telling me that I couldn't do something because I didn't have as good a vision as everyone else. And that's really kind of how I've lived my life is, oh, I can't do that. All right, well, just watch me.
Which I love the wording of that. Oh, you think I can't do that because I can't see? Just watch me. I love that. And you mentioned in your bio that you're an Achilles athlete. I've not heard of this. Please tell us more what that is.
Oh, Achilles is such a wonderful organization. So just a few years ago, I wanted to participate in a local hometown race that was a memorial for a family member of someone I really care about. And I knew a friend of mine who also does not have vision had run a race, and I called him and asked him how he did it. He introduced me to Achilles, which is an international organization of athletes who give and volunteer of their time to coach and guide people with disabilities, including vision loss. And so my first guide came to my neighborhood, and she gave me a tether and she says, okay, let's run. And I was terrified. I had run on my treadmill for years, but had not run out free and, on the street for many years. And I didn't even know it was possible. So we began running together, holding this tether, and my terror very quickly turned to absolute over the moon joy at just the feeling of the breeze on my face and being able to swing my arms like I, don't do as normally or naturally on a treadmill. And that started my running career, you might say. And I've run a number of half marathons and many shorter races since that time. And it has just enriched my life beyond words.
That is so awesome. I didn't even it makes sense that would be out there. And I love that idea that there are people there who are trained to help people who can't see where they're going safely to be able to do the thing that they loved. And I can only imagine the feeling of freedom and elation that must have come with that run. And are you still able to run with a guide given what's going on right now?
So it has, of course, our pandemic has changed everything. All races were canceled last year and they are again this year. I just got a notification inviting me to do a virtual half marathon for Brooklyn, which is my favorite half marathon. You start in Prospect Park in Brooklyn, New York, and you run out to Coney Island, which that's where you finish. And then we ride the Ferris wheel and sit on the lawn and recover from our race. But it's virtual, so you can run it where you want. You could go to Brooklyn. Virtual isn't quite as exciting,
Right.
but it does get you out running. And yes, there is a way to still run together and, be careful because you are out in the fresh air and you're not in an enclosed space. And so we've been very careful and we have been successfully running together.
Oh, that is so good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. So let's talk a little more about your business and your health coaching and obviously your journey into doTERRA. How did you get into the health coaching and doTERRA?
Well, I used to own a health food store. When I moved to Connecticut, I opened a health food store and, that's part of my business background. And so I've always loved helping people to realize that they could help themselves. And several years ago, my husband has been one of those invincible people who didn't always feel the need to be as careful with his health as would be well advised. And he has had a number of health problems just developing for years. And so several years ago, I started researching essential oils. I had picked them up in stores here and there, but I didn't know much about them. And I was hoping that I could find ways to help him with some of his health conditions. And it was through that research that led me to doTERRA. And the values of the company and the quality of the product really resonated with me personally and with my values. And that's kind of where it started. And then I realized that this is something that I would find a lot of joy in doing, is helping people to learn how to really become healers in their own home and to have resources, problem solvers right at their fingertips. And so that's really where my inspiration started. And now I just absolutely love my work.
Oh, that is so good. That's really cool to know. What if you had to pinpoint, what would you say was a success story with whether it's a particular oil or combination of oils, either you've had in your own life, your husband's life, or maybe one of your customers' lives that really helps solidify the benefits of the oils for you?
Well, thank you for asking that question. That's a great question. And so I bought a collection of oils and I was a little intrigued and mystified because they seemed so interesting and I wasn't quite sure what to do with all of them. But one of my first experiences was when I was Grammy sitting with my then I think he was a 7-year-old grandson. My daughter was working, and he had a pretty high fever. It was 104, and that's getting up where you start to feel really concerned. And so I just got a recipe of what to use to support him, and I made sure he stayed hydrated. And literally the next day, his fever was down to 100. And then the day after that, he was fine. And I thought, oh my goodness, seriously, these really work. They made such a difference. And then I started working with my husband. He's just lived with a lot of discomfort throughout his body for years because of having diabetes and various health problems. And he just found so much support and kind of ease of his discomforts, and even just helping him to feel in better balance. And so that really spoke to me. And then I helped some family members sleep better. People not sleeping is a really common frustration, and the oils are so supportive for better sleep. And so it just kind of developed this momentum where I got so excited because they work so well, and they're so natural. They're just plant, nothing more and nothing less. And I like that. And it's been a fun journey, and I have a lot of joy when people experience results. That just makes it so worthwhile.
I agree with that. I've been a doTERRA essential oil user for quite a few years now. And my friend who introduced me to it, I had known her for a number of months before I finally tried any of the oils for anything. But we happened to be at an event, and I had a migraine the day before. And I don't know if you've ever suffered from a migraine before, but my experience with them is they are random. They tend to be weather related. And so I can never predict when they're going to happen. So many of those medications that are meant to help prevent them are for people who have them super regularly. And so those medications just aren't really a good fit for me. But I had a migraine the day before, and I saw her at an event. And my experience with migraines is, when I have them untreated, the next day I have like a migraine hangover. And it feels like a hangover after you've, imbibed too much beverage the night before, but water doesn't help like it does when you're hungover from alcohol.
Right.
And so I remember her running out to her car and bringing back in one of those little drams, the teeny tiny little oil samples. It was a sample of frankincense. And she said, okay, on the thumb, roof of your mouth for 30 seconds. It's going to look and feel like you're sucking your thumb. Give it a try. Oh, by the way, it's going to taste horrible, but do it. Trust me. And I said, at this point, I'm willing to do anything, because I had to run the meeting. I was going to be the president running this meeting, and I was feeling hungover. I did not feel great. And she could tell, because I was not my normal bubbly, happy self. Yes. And within 10 minutes, the light sensitivity, the nausea, all of those things were starting to subside. The leftover headache was starting to go away. And about 20 minutes later, I was back to my normal self. That for me was a selling moment for, oh my gosh, I've never had anything work that well to help me with my migraines. And so that was a big thing for me. And then, of course, I tried the Peace Oil blend a few months later for sleep. I call it my rest in peace oil, because I sleep like the dead. I don't sleep like a baby. I don't like using that term, sleep like a baby, because they wake up every 2 hours.
Yes. I agree. You're right.
Right. So I call it my rest in peace oil, because I sleep like the dead. For me, it works really well. And I know there are some people who don't love it, but I love the doTERRA. And guys, this is not a commercial for doTERRA. Trust me. This is just my own personal experience with it. I love it. And I'm not saying that other essential oils or other essential oil companies are not effective or whatever, but in this case, doTERRA is the one I know and the one I've been working with. So, as you've been going through all of this, what would you say your proudest accomplishment is with your doTERRA and health coaching business?
Well, thank you for asking. Yes. So my purpose is really within my sphere of influence to make the world just a little bit better around me. And there are so many things in life that are upsetting or frustrating or that are completely outside of our control. So, while I stay well informed, I try to put those things kind of on a shelf and put my heart into what I can make a difference with and about day by day. And if I can make someone else's life a little better, then that brings me great joy. And that can be with, even a circumstance like you've just described, when people can have an answer and a resource right at their fingertips for the things that come up in life. They come up for all of us in one way or another. Or if it is to support and guide and lead others into more financial freedom. Because the business model that doTERRA offers allows us a lot of personal freedom. And we can accomplish what may be hard to accomplish in a salaried position where we have to wait for an opportunity to move up in income and in rank or position. Mm-hmm. And we can really create that with doTERRA's business model. And so I would say just, it's a real joy to help people improve their own lives.
I love that. And so, I'm somewhat familiar with doTERRA's compensation plan and rank plan. What's the highest level you have achieved with doTERRA?
So I am at a silver level, and I do have the goal to rise much higher. And so I'm very excited and proud of building this foundational level in my progress with doTERRA, and I'm well on my way to the level of reaching gold.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Because for those of you who are not familiar, silver is about halfway up, if I remember correctly, mm-hmm. about halfway up the ranks there. And this is about the time, and this is true for every direct sales and network marketing company out there. The way they build their compensation plan is you hit a point where you can no longer rank up based on your own activity. It really comes down to the leadership that you have, and true leaders in this case, and in your case, you're helping your team achieve what they want. And in the end, the result of that is that you end up getting what you want, right? So how are you helping your team members succeed?
Well, I have an excellent training program, and I have training for people who want to go a little more slowly and at their own pace. I have training for people who want to go full purpose ahead and get there as fast as they can. So I have a great training program. I have great mentors. I'm connected with wonderful people. I have a fantastic network that I can bring people into. And I personally mentor my business builders. And my question is, when I meet with them, what do you feel is going really well for you, and what would you like support with? And we, we build on that platform, and we just keep powering ahead.
those are great questions, by the way, people. So BDSM crew, you guys, if you're in a leadership position or you would like to be in a leadership position, I think that's a great point to have some very specific questions that make it about your team member, not you and what you want to achieve. It's what do you think is going well? Let's celebrate those good things together. And how can I, as your leader, support you? How can I, because then that allows them to tell you as a leader exactly what level of support they want and need from you. And then that way you as a leader aren't trying to push more on them than they want. And also you're not under delivering because you know exactly what they want. So if they want weekly calls, then you can provide the weekly calls. But if they only want a monthly call, you can provide the monthly call, right? So what would you say your team has accomplished that you are very proud and want to share about what they've accomplished as a group?
Well, I love seeing people come into the realization of their own personal development. And I would say personal development is probably the most exciting thing that I see my team realizing about themselves is, oh my goodness, look at me. This is where I started and look at what I can do now. And this is where I'm going and I have a path to get there. And as much as having someone have a personal experience and a benefit from an oil that makes a difference for their quality of life, I also feel this for my business builders when they are elated because they see their own personal development. They see their own personal growth, and they're inspired by our motivating network. We just have amazing people within our network, and it's just such a wonderful community. And deep friendships and relationships are developed out of this, and people are excited to know that they can actually attain things that might have seemed unattainable to them before.
Yeah. The number of people who come into the business, they come into it drawn with the income possibilities, right? Mm-hmm. And what keeps them coming back, what keeps them running their business, in my experience, because I hear it time and again, and you just reiterated it, is this community, this, because 76% of people in direct sales are women, this sisterhood, these relationships that you would not have ever known. You would have never created these relationships because it's with someone who lives in another town or maybe in another state, or in some cases, maybe even another country. I mean, the number of people that I've been introduced to who when I was active in my business years ago, I made friends who literally live all over the world. I've got friends in Germany now. I've got friends in the UK. I have friends in Australia who I met because of my activity in my company. And so those friendships, that sisterhood, that community, and the personal development. I mean, had you told me when I started my business back in 2010 that, I would be this confident woman who was going out and, doing a podcast and creating an international 3-day summit with names like Jack Canfield. Back in 2010, I would have laughed at you.
Yes.
No, little old me from St. Louis. No, I wouldn't do that. Like, who am I to ask Jack Canfield to be on a summit or whatever? And here I am because of the personal growth that has been achieved through my direct sales background. Just like you're saying, Susanne, that confidence came from years of this personal development and this business. My BDSM crew has heard me say this time and again, if they've listened to lots of episodes, This business is a personal development journey with a paycheck attached.
Yes, you're so right. And, you know, I love what you said about your international connections, even. And I always like to find the positive in a situation. And this pandemic and the restrictions of in-person meetings have been so hard for so many people, and including me. I'm a hugger. I love, in-person connection and hugs. And but I will say the very bright spot about our current situation is that it has become perfectly acceptable to connect with people in a virtual way and have it be even more meaningful, and that it has opened up all geographical boundaries. There's no restriction. So if an in-person meeting required someone to drive for 3 hours to get there, now that's not part of the equation. And I am literally networking with people all over the country. And so that is the bright spot that I like to point to, that has been, brought upon us by the requirements and the restrictions of the pandemic. And that has been a big personal development process for me to, make very warm connections virtually. Because that was just really kind of a small part of my, the way I was approaching my business prior to our current situation. So we do find this personal development opportunity so enriching, and we don't always even know where it's going to take us. But when opportunity presents and we step into it, and that saying, if you want your comfort zone to grow larger, you need to step out of it. And then it will. And I've found that to be so true. You just take the leap to get a little bit uncomfortable, get a little bit scary, and pretty soon you've got that in your tool belt, and you're now accomplished in that new skill. And so personal development is really a thrilling opportunity.
Yeah. And the connection there between that stepping outside your comfort zone and the number of people who, I'm sure, you've heard it as well. I used to hear from people, of course you can do that because it's you. And I'm like, well, if you think that I'm courageous, that means you also understand that there's got to be some fear behind it too, because it's not courage if there's no fear associated with it. It's not bravery if you don't feel the fear. Those of us who are brave, those of us who, who you see as courageous, we feel the fear too. We just don't let it hold us back. And I think that's something that has got to apply to you, because you've got some different life experiences that are helping guide your courage, right?
I would say very much, Jenny, and thank you. Yes. The first half marathon that I ran was in the rain with 35,000 people. And
wow.
I was scared just because I wasn't even sure I could do it. I knew I could do it. I had trained and I was going to do it. But the weather forecast was rain, and people were asking me, are you really going to go ahead and do that race in the rain? I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to not do it. And the only conditions that I wouldn't have run in would have been snow and ice, which could happen in the Northeast in May. That's when that race is. And that would be dangerous. I would, not do that. But I started the race with a shoe full of water, and it rained the entire 13.1 miles. And, it's the grit that you develop through doing something that's not easy. You set a purpose, you set the intention, and then you go. And it's not necessarily easy, but what you gain and grow and develop through that experience, it powers you forward for the next experience. And then you can bring and encourage others. And it's very enriching.
I would definitely agree with that. Well, Susanne, the last thing I want to cover with you is the question that I asked just about all of my guests, which is, so what if you had to bring it down to one or two things, what would you say your secret to direct sales success is?
I would say it's my connection with people and the relationships that I seek with people. It's really about the human connection. And when you have that, the business is easy.
Amen to that. So when you talk about these connections that you have with people, what are some of the ways that you work to connect with others, especially in this day and age of, you already brought up, you get to network nationally now and even internationally. How are you beginning to make some of those connections? How are you networking in order to make new connections?
Well, I believe that people like to know they're cared about. People want to know you care. And if there is a feeling of genuine interest and genuine caring, then the business side just kind of takes care of itself. And I find that's the biggest missing piece. I know for myself, if I feel like someone's indifferent or doesn't really care, depending on what the circumstances are, it almost makes me mad. It's like, they don't care, that bothers me. And I just never want to be that person. And I want people that I work with to know that I really care, that I've got their back. I'm there, when they need an answer, when they need a solution, when they maybe just need to connect with someone or be able to talk about a circumstance. And I really think that's what it comes down to, is that, we all want to feel connected and cared about.
I would agree with you. That's something that I think has also been a key to my success. So I would definitely agree with you. Is that connection, that caring, because people can feel it, they can sense it. If it's not there, you know it. You can feel it. It's when you go out to any one of those, let's say, furniture sales stores or a car sales place, you can tell the difference between the salesperson who actually cares about you, is listening to you and wants what's best for you, as compared to the salesperson who wants what's best for them, get you into the biggest, fastest, most expensive car with all the bells and whistles because they're going to make more commission on it, versus the car salesperson who listens to what you need, who listens to what your family's wants and needs are, what your budget is, and then they're going to work to do what's absolutely best for you, regardless of what their commission is, because that's how you build relationship. Is that genuine care and listening and knowing the right questions to ask. And when you listen to the answers, that's what shows you care.
You are exactly right, Jenny. And, when you and I had our first coffee chat, I think it was, you have such a warm persona, and I felt like we have been besties for years already. Because you just have that warm and caring vibe, and you do make others feel like you're interested in them and that you generally care about who they are and what they do. And so I just, I just want to share that because that's something that is very evident in your coaching and in your networking. And I really appreciate that about you.
Oh, thank you, Susanne. I thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that because I felt the same way. I mean, I really do love to learn about other people. I love to get to know their story. I love to get to know who they are as a human being, because it's just, I love a vibrant, colorful, life filled with people from all different walks of life, all different challenges, because all of us have a story, all of us have a challenge of our own, and getting to know people is one of the wonderful blessings we have in life. And right now in this pandemic, we have the opportunity to really connect in a different way instead of, standing around at a networking event, everybody holding their wine or their beer and or their cup of coffee, depending on the time of day, right? We have this opportunity to really connect because we're all starving for that right now, I think. And so by reaching out to others, and you and I connected through, if I remember correctly, LinkedIn of all places.
Yes, we did. Yes.
And so just to show guys, you can absolutely start reaching out and creating connections that start online. They go to Zoom or FaceTime or Facebook Messenger chat, video chats. All of those things are possible to then begin to create connections with humans who live literally all over the world. I mean, it's been a great opportunity right now because, like you said, we're not spending an hour or two on a round trip drive to a training or an event, because we can now attend all of these events from the comfort of our own home. And it allows us to have more quality family time because we're not away from them. We're able to do the event and then immediately within 5 minutes be reading books to our kids or our grandkids and playing games or having a quality meal at the table with them. So I think all of this is definitely doable. I mean, I've been networking my business for over 3 years now, doing most of it virtually. And so when the pandemic hit, I was already ahead of most of the curve because I already knew what to do. Yeah. I'd been doing it for 2 years at that point. So, but Susanne, I really want to thank you so much for being here today. And as I'm looking at what you have here, you do have a little freebie for our listeners, and you're going to, it sounds like, personalize in a conversation with a listener who would like to know more about oils. So maybe they heard my story about what frankincense has done for me, or the peace oil blend, the rest in peace oil blend. Maybe those are things that would be beneficial for you guys, but talk to Susanne first. So Susanne, how would you like people to connect with you to have a discussion about an oil that might be beneficial for them?
Well, people can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook, or I use my cell phone. It is public. I'm happy to give it to you if that's appropriate, or if you would prefer another way, I'm happy to share that. So do you want me to share my cell phone number, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's totally up to you. If you feel comfortable sharing your cell phone number so that people can text you or call you, that is totally fine with me. And listeners, for those of you who've been listening for a while, I will include Susanne's LinkedIn profile, her Facebook profile, her Instagram handle, all the links to all of those in the show notes. For those of you who are new and don't know how to access the show notes, as long as you're not driving, grab your phone, because I know most people listen to podcasts through their phone. Grab your phone, tap on the episode, and then scroll up just a little bit, and you should see the show notes there, and you'll see all of Susanne's preferred methods of contact so that you can reach out to her, including her phone number. So we'll put that there, Susanne, because hearing the phone number is not necessarily going to help most people, but it will be listed in the show notes as a way for people to get a hold of you. And so that way they can text or call you. So
Yes, I think that's great.
awesome. Well, Susanne, thank you so much for sharing yourself and your story and your love of a healthy lifestyle that people can be empowered with. They can take over their lifestyle.
Oh, thank you for inviting me to be here today. And thank you for doing what you do, just to encourage people to be their best version of themselves, and to move forward in their own entrepreneurial business life. I think that's such a wonderful support system that you offer.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Susanne. And guys, well, you know how this goes. Make sure you stay tuned because there's another badass episode on its way.
Thanks for listening to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Podcast with your direct sales dom, Jenny Bellinger. Why are you waiting to go to badassdirectsalesmastery.com? Don't make the dom get her whip. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with another rock star that you know in direct sales after you subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss any future episodes. You can also check out the show notes for links and any contact information mentioned in today's episode. We'll see you next time.